Hello and welcome to this exciting event on unlocking the new next frontier in data-powered threat hunting. Over the next 1 hour, we will have some exciting presentations, and our panel of experts will share their views on what are the major cyber threats that we face today and how modern data analytics tools are being used for threat hunting to keep our networks safe. Traditionally, data analytics has had little to do with cybersecurity. However, with network complexity growing exponentially, a new approach to cybersecurity that is more flexible, self-learning, and able to set rules with minimum human supervision is being devised. Cybersecurity professionals are using analytics on massive amounts of data that are available from the network to devise new types of cyber defenses. So while sophistication of cyber threats have grown, data-powered cybersecurity tools are also today available to fight the increased menace that hackers pose. We learn more about this during the course of this program. I would like to now invite Shinichi Yokohama, CISO, Nippon Telegraph and Telephone Company, to share his keynote address. Yokohama-san, can you come on?
Thank you very much, Amit. Hello, everybody. Thank you for participating and providing me this opportunity. My name is Shinichi. I am the Chief Information Security Officer of NTT, the Japan-based telecom and data service company. Today, I'd like to share some examples how NTT actually uses data for the threat to intelligence with a couple of concrete examples. So let me first start just briefly in a profile of who NTT is. We used to be a Japan domestic telecom company, but over the last 2 decades or so, we have extended our activities internationally. And as of now, we are a globalized ICT service company, providing both network service as well as IT service internationally. I'd like to point out the center bottom column, which is we are the global top 5 IP backbone service provider, which I will mention later again. And with such scale of our infrastructure, we are actually generating lots of data from ourselves. And we are using those data for the cyber threat to intelligence purpose too. We have engagement with clients with more than 15,000 cases, and we obtained lots of examples of threats from those engagements. We also have 150 advisory assessments with the clients, and obviously we have global network and software security operation centers. And with those data, we generate a global threat intelligence report every year. Actually, the GTIR 2021 was made public about a month ago, and you can download the GTIR 2021 freely. Let me share some highlights just by one page of the executive summary of this GTIR 2021. First, industry-wise, who are the mostly attacked or targeted industries? We found 3 sectors. That's financials, which is across years, by the way. And the second is manufacturing. And the third is, given that high intensity on healthcare industry is now the third mostly attacked industries in 2020. Second, in terms of the type of malware, we found lots of miners and Trojans in 2020. Cryptocurrency also accelerates that kind of Trojans and also miners proliferation in the threat environment. And needless to say, the COVID-19 generated lots of changes in the threat landscape. We found lots of criminals and even nation state players leverage the COVID-19 as a sort of token or vehicle for penetration purposes. On the other hand, for the people side and also the corporations now shifting drastically from the on-site work to the remote work, and that also changed the landscape. Those are the highlights from our Global Threat to Intelligence report in 2021. Now, let me dive into a more engineering approach, how we are using the data for threat to intelligence purpose. As I mentioned, we are global top 5 IP backbone service providers, which means that globally, not in Japan, not only in Asia, but really globally, we can see some sort of visibility of the IP backbone traffic. And we have a network operation center somewhere in the United States and send the net flow data, which means from to IP addresses, and also passive DNS data to our network security operation centers, which is our R&D center, also located in the United States. And we analyze those data for the threat identification purposes by using our own proprietary technologies of machine learnings and graph minings. The result of such approach, we contributed some takedown approach by the public sectors, not only the Asian, but globally. The governments and major players are collaborating the takedown approach to the botnets. And these are the examples of how NTT actually participates such takedown activities. Well, going forward, we want to open up our proprietary technology to the public space, which means currently we are using our own data and feeding those data into our own platform and use the output, which is a threat perspective, for our own purpose. Our plan is to open up this platform for the other players. In other words, Asian countries or Asian internet service providers can feed in their data into the NTT's platform and obtain the results of the analysis for their purpose too. By such facilitating collaborations across multiple internet service providers, we can contribute a much broader space for the threat to intelligence and resiliency of the global cybersecurity space. So I call for the participations. If you are interested in listening to more, please contact me offline. That's my presentation. Thank you very much. And microphone back to Amit.
Thank you, Shinichi-san. Very interesting presentation about how your entity is using data to sort of profile the threat that is out there. So taking this theme forward, I would like to now ask Nicholas Lim, the Principal Solutions Architect at Elastic, to share his presentation. Nicholas, you want to come on?
Of course. Thank you very much, Amit. And again, a very good morning to everyone. Thank you for having me on the panel keynote. And again, I would like to thank Yokohama-san for his intriguing keynote. And I can't help but to notice the 40 terabits per second that's going into the ISSA. So it's really well thought out and orchestrated. Now, maybe just a very quick introduction of myself. My name is Nicholas. I've been with Elastic for nearly 6 years now. And prior to Elastic, I've done a lot of work as the threat specialist, an incident responder, security consultant, and many other different roles in the other cyber realm. And today I'm going to tell you a little bit more on how Elastic is looking in terms of security. So now, as the previous keynote, Yokohama-san was mentioning, right, there's a big explosion of data, and how Elastic sees things is security is a data problem. If you look at the heart of things, it's all the data that's coming in from all your devices, all the telemetry, and again, many other things that's contributing to it. Now, if you think about it this way, right, you have your data, your data collection, right, you are operationalizing your actions through visualizations and analytics. But what enables all that, again, it starts with your security data. Now, as the previous keynote, Yokohama-san, I mentioned as well, is attackers are now more dominant than ever, right? The barrier to entry for offensive capabilities are falling. Now, if you think about it like today, if you want to get an exploit code, it's all in the public domain. You want to get like a leaked data, like emails to like even start like your research, like everything's out there in the torrents. So it makes the attacker like a very, very potent and also like a very, very powerful and very easy for them to get started. Now, like let's pivot back to like our reality today as well, right? Today, we are in the midst of a pandemic, right? And every day we see hundreds of thousands, and every quarter, billions of new devices connected. Why? Many of the teams, many of the business are now more distributed, and they use much more diverse hardware. Everybody's connecting to their phones, their different devices and software as well, thus making a much bigger exposure, a wider attack surface for all the threat actors. Now, like with this, at Elastic, we recognize that, and again, like we make it our mission. In Elastic, like Elastic Security's mission, we are trying to protect the world's data from attack. Yeah. And okay, like very quickly, I'm pivoting in. All right. I'm giving you some examples here. So maybe by way of introduction, maybe if you don't know Elastic yet already, I'm just going to give you some numbers here. We have more than like 12,000 customers and hundreds of millions of downloads of our technology. And of course, the easy way for me to explain this, say for example, today, if you're in Singapore, if you hail a taxi like on Grab, that's Elastic. You buy your groceries through RedMart on Lazada, and delivery by Ninja Van or like a e-commerce Shopee, that's Elastic. When you search the search bar in Wikipedia for a term, that's Elastic. Now, if you look into like these examples here, we power the NASA data, help provide analytics for the NASA data for like Mars rovers, right? To complex border protection, profiling criminals and terrorists. Elastic use cases are already there. Now, what I'm showing you here, like in this slide, is like we are powering not just like cybersecurity, even like physical security, and even like protecting the humankind for early warning systems. So you could think about it as like for Elastic, like solving the data problem like beyond just cybersecurity and also like all the other like security aspects, including physical security, is definitely like within our realm of expertise. Yeah. So how do we get here? How did Elastic like bring up all these capabilities to be able to like protect the humankind, provide the analytics? We certainly like acknowledge we did not do it all alone, right? This time chart here like shows the journey that Elastic went through, right? Like it's not just an internal like expertise that we use, but we collaborate with the community, with the likes of like service providers, ISPs, understand how data is collected, how data is used, how do we build capabilities to enable like a better connectivity, better net flow detections, and like a better understandings of like decoding all those packet flows, right? And in all honesty, like all my years in security, right? Like I spent more than like a decade and a half in the cybersecurity realm. Never has there been a platform that's so comprehensive that can enable or can accommodate all sorts of data types, all data sources in one consolidated platform that allows teams to actually analyze, hunt, detect, and prevent in a unified manner until Elastic came along. Yeah. Okay. So now, with that, what I want to say is for Elastic Security offering, right? Like today, how we help enterprises is we have like two base offerings, the SIEM and the endpoint. But I'll get to that like very shortly. The goal of our Elastic Security, like when we're trying to protect the data of the world, is like we want to make sure that you're continuously monitoring and you continuously comply to the processes that you start building up to. So that means that it's not just simple like searching through logs or whatnot. You will always be able to look at your data in a very holistic manner and a very easy manner. Yeah. And of course, like with threat prevention and detection, what we are enabling is not just like a static rules anymore of like the yesteryears. We are turning on like a machine learning, profiling your attackers, profiling your users, understanding how your infrastructure is being used. And we will flag out and say that this is a very abnormal connection. This is a very abnormal activity that you've never previously seen before, right? And of course, lastly, being elastic and highly scalable, all the data that you put in there, it allows you to like search through it in a very holistic manner, and including like data from like the past years, or like many years before as well, right? And in this sense, and in today's context as well, like we'll be talking like very shortly in the panel around hunting, is we want to enable all our teams to be able to search through all the data and understand like what has happened like in the past. Yeah. Now, like I'm going to go in like a little bit deeper. As I said, for monitoring and compliance, you don't just want to have like a single like search pane and like just search for everything. What we want to surface as well is like we are helping you with like a machine learning to tell you what is actually happening in your environment. You can't beat the attackers alone. And I really want to quote like one of the other favorite quotes of a favorite person, a historian, Alan Turing. It takes a machine to defeat another machine. Again, like the attackers are using automated scripts, they're using automated tools, and we can't be using a static tool to like fight against them. Yeah. And of course, like when we move into like threat prevention and detection, we are providing you a very easy way to actually understand that, hey, like where did your attacker come in from? Which door do they come in from? Which door do they open? Which processes do they go along? And what other stuff do they drop along, if they drop any? If not, what were the parameters that was always passed through, right? So if it's a strategy that you might want to think for like your organizations or people who are listening here today is, if you cannot prevent it, you still need to be able to detect it. So again, like the keyword here is prevention is ideal, detection is a must. Yeah. Pivoting very nicely into like our hunting and like incident response, like we will go into like very shortly as well. When you do a hunt or like when you're doing an incident response, sometimes it's a theory that you're trying to prove. It's a marathon. Just because when you search for something, it doesn't exist, or like does not like come up immediately in your data set, doesn't mean that it hasn't happened, right? A lot of indicators in the past could tell you like what are some of your security postures that you need to fix moving forward as well, right? So when you're doing your hunting, you're doing your incident response, you want to augment like your current search with data from like threat intelligence from outside. You want data from additional telemetry that you want to collect right now. You want to augment like additional like intelligence that you could get. You want to be able to do that all from a single tool. Yeah, which is why, as we distribute like the other slides here today, I'm also like proud to say that Elastic published a very comprehensive guide to like threat hunting. Now I've highlighted some points here. Like I hope the participants here, or at least like the people who joined the webinar today, you will be able to see like how do you currently detect attacks that don't deploy malware, right? Or how do you detect attacks that currently don't leave behind any indicators of compromise? Why? Because they use fileless attacks. They do the attacks in memory. How do you detect all that? So again, like there are a lot of things that you could learn and also like strategize like moving forward as well. So hopefully like this guide like I will be able to help you. Now, as we pivot along, right? I just want to make like a very quick summary, reiterating what I said in the first slide. Security being a data problem. Again, today, you should not discriminate and say that, hey, like this data from my phone is less important than the data from my desktop. Everything that's interconnected, everything that can be used, everything that has got memory and storage could always be used as a jump point for attack, right? So what we really want the world to know that Elastic wants to help you to eliminate your blind spots, right? Like take your data. If you cannot search it right now, at least you know that it's there, that you will be able to find out like later, or at least understand the trend of the attackers, right? You also want to be able to do a unified detection and protection in a way that you're not just using the brain power of your analysts. You want to use machine capabilities like the machine learning and all the understandings that you could have from all the clustering, categorizations to help you to identify your attackers, right? And lastly, like how do we bring all this to make sure that your analysts focus on like proving the theories that they're looking at, rather than figuring out, hey, like how do I do this? How do I ingest? How do I take this data in, right? So if I may leave you in my closing point, like again, like we want to eliminate blind spots. We are providing you like a unified detection and protection at scale. And of course, like the most important thing is we want to enable like each and every analyst. I've reached the end of my keynote, like a very brief one, and I'm going to turn this over back to Amit, and of course, Amit, back to you, please.
Thank you, Nicholas. And wow, 2 keynote presentations, and we got a very good first-hand perspective of how data can and is being used for threat hunting and cybersecurity. I've got a few questions for both Nicholas and Shinichi-san regarding their keynote, but let's get to that later. Now, before that, let me come to the interesting part of today's event, that is a panel discussion on the topic. Joining Shinichi-san and Nicholas is Hongwei Jian, Director General, Taiwan Cybersecurity Department, and Anthony Lim, Director, Center for Strategic Cyberspace and International Studies, Singapore. Let me start today's discussion by asking a straight, simple question to Shinichi-san. Why is it so important to create a cybersecurity strategy? I mean, it may sound very silly, but I think we need to put that on the table first before we do any discussion on how to do it. Shinichi-san, you want to take a shot at that?
Thank you. I mean, I think that that's a very fundamental question.
Yes, exactly.
Probably depends on how you define quote and unquote strategy.
Mm-hmm.
But my version of answer is strategy should be linked to the business as a business executive. So, by defining the, cybersecurity strategy is leaving the technology space to the business and management space. And for a shared understanding, what is the challenge and what actions to take, not by the CISO only, but all entire board members, all the executive officers collectively, shared action taking directions. That's what they mean by cybersecurity strategy. So my answer to that is combining cybersecurity to the business management. That's strategy.
Yeah, so essentially you're saying cybersecurity should move from the CapEx to the OpEx of a business so that it is right in the center and nobody looks at the bottom line of how much is being spent on cybersecurity.
Not only CapEx and OpEx, but also the people management.
Yeah, people management, right.
And organizational management.
Yeah. Okay. I want to take this question to the others, but before that, there is a question from the audience for you, Shinichi-san. I'd like a quick response from you, and I'm asking you to say it here in the panel instead of responding privately, because I think a lot of people may want to know about it. Is that the question is, who are the entities that can participate in entities plan? National, CERT, large enterprises, SMEs. Can you give a quick rundown for the benefit of all our viewers?
Sure. I mean, I think the answer from Ben is specifically asking about my call for participations to the, ISA's open platform.
Exactly.
I mean, we are looking for essentially the internet service providers, network service providers who can feed in the data. And that's probably the, local ISPs in each country in Asia. You have local ISPs or national ISPs, they can generate the net flow data or DNS data. Those are the people who can feed in data.
Thank you, Shinichi-san. I hope this answers the question from one of our viewers on this subject. Now, again, staying with that first question I asked, why is it so important to create a cybersecurity strategy? We just heard Shinichi-san talk from the business perspective. Now, I'd like to ask Hongwei the same question, but from a government perspective. What are your views on this, Hongwei?
I think the cybersecurity strategy is very important for the government because for every employee, they must be responsible for their own cybersecurity awareness, and also because they will receive lots of information and data from the external world, and if there is no any awareness of them, it will become a leak of that. And the cybersecurity strategy is very important because we can use this to educate our user, and also we can give the responsibility to our agency to play their role in the whole national wide view of cybersecurity. Yeah. So that's from a government point of view.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you on this a bit later. But before that, I would like my other two panelists also to give their views. Anthony, you want to jump in and share your views on what should go into why is it important to create a cybersecurity, and what are the elements that should go into it?
Well, first of all, today especially, over the past years, 20 over years, basically cybersecurity has been, in a way, getting worse and worse because there are more and more things to deal with. And it's because, not just because of that, but even in IT, we have more, every year we have more systems, more services, more applications, more functionality, more ways of doing things, new hardware, new software, getting powerful, faster and cheaper. And therefore, and there's more, and especially over the past couple of years with the COVID pandemic around the world, there's been a lot of consumption of cloud services and remote access. So there's always new IT ways of doing things. A lot of apps, now you have 200 apps or more on your phone, half of which you never use. And so there's a lot more things for cybersecurity to deal with. Don't even talk about mobile phone apps. I talk about the office network and the infrastructure and the cloud services. So you need a strategy to basically help you pick your fights, narrow your priorities in a way, structure and have a framework of what to do first, what to do, say what needs to be done first. And it also includes things like business continuity. When the system goes down, what do you restore first? We earlier heard Nicholas talk something about incident response. That's very important. Incident response is around for 20 or 30 or 40 years, but many companies today, even big companies, it's broken. So we need to take that into account. So it's not just about security or confidentiality or privacy. The original tenet of cybersecurity, CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability, all that has never gone away. So a cybersecurity strategy for an organization helps you structure and prioritize based on the various tenets and your assets and your your data and your services, what needs to be done first and how to do what, and what needs to be done second, what needs to be done third, what is a backup and all that. I could go on. This question is a lecture by itself. Generally, a strategy is required, especially today, because it's very, very messy. It's got many, many things out there. There are 100 ways, 200 ways, 300 ways hackers can try to attack you. And, we cannot keep guessing, and we cannot just keep making our war thicker and thicker, things like that. And that's why also we have new concepts like external threat intelligence, which in a way we're going to talk a bit about in this forum, about threat hunting and using data, not just trying to make your defenses thicker and hope for the best.
That's very interesting set of points. You're not trying to be more intelligent in your defense than trying to just beef it up. Nicholas, a quick point of view from you on the same very fundamental question as Shinichi-san pointed out.
Yeah, again, you don't want security to be a hindrance to the business, right? And again, you don't want the business to be on the spotlight for the wrong reasons. So what Yokohama-san I mentioned is it's very true. While the business wants to go online, wants to be discovered, you also almost always need to have a strategy that what happens when Murphy's Law kicks in. Everything that could go wrong. Right? So you want to design a strategy that embeds security from the get-go and say that for every businesses, every new software, every application that goes in, even if we don't have the budget right now, we need to at least understand if something happens, how do we respond to it? Where do we start collecting data? How do we start analyzing? I think a basic strategy around that, make it compulsory when you are starting to build an application, starting to bring applications to production and start understanding what the implications may be, those will be a good start for a strategy. And again, as Anthony mentioned as well, you need measurements KPIs to actually understand that, hey, are you doing well? Is this how your application is supposed to be used? Today, your application is being used as a launchpad to attacks and you don't even know it. So those are some of the critical points that somebody will need to take out as and when they design a new program in a business. So a very, very well articulated points by Yokohama and Yokohama-san and Anthony.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. Nicholas, you just gave a nice brief summary of all the viewpoints here. But, here I want to go back to Hongwei, as I said, how do government agencies especially, this applies for private companies as well, but I'd like your views on the government agencies, move from reactive to proactive approach in cybersecurity, because till now, we've had great advances in cybersecurity, but it's still essentially proactive. How do you make it reactive? How do you make it proactive?
More proactive. It's very interesting because I will talk more about this. Because in Taiwan, we start doing the cybersecurity can trace back to 2001. It is a very long time ago. And we find out that the technology is changing. So the threat of the cybersecurity is also changed. And before, all of those threats are from technology point of view, but right now, there is not only technology, it also includes economic oriented and also the political issue of that. So for us, we have defined a national cybersecurity strategy once per 4 years. Right now is our 6th phase of our national cybersecurity program. And the proactive defense is one of our key issues in our current strategy. We expect to stop all of these attacks and threats in the border of our nation. And how do we do this? We need the big data analysis of all of this. In Taiwan, we face around 20 million to 40 million attacks per month. So on the other hand, because we face all of those attacks, so we can collect all of those data and we can analyze all of those attacks and the pattern. And based on this, we can do the proactive defense from government side. And that is from technology point of view. And also we need to cooperate with the private sector together. The government cannot do all of those defense. We need to cooperate with the private sector together, including the critical infrastructure, including the private business together. And we share the information together. And the private sector let us know who attacked, and we can provide our solution. We can send our team to help them, and we can collect all of those information. That is the second one. And the third one is about the talent. I believe all around the world, every country lack of the talent of cybersecurity. So we have lots of programs to cultivate, to educate, to train the talent of the cybersecurity. So including all of those 3 factors, and we push ourselves toward the proactive defense of our national cybersecurity program. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that comprehensive response, Hong Wei. Now, I want to come back to Nicholas on something. During your keynote, you made this very important point that, while cybersecurity experts such as yourself is using big data and automation to fight the threats, the same tools are being used by the bad guys, the hackers. So, I mean, this is something I've written quite extensively about. It is almost like an arms race going on between the good guys and the bad guys. So, my point here is that how are new technologies being incorporated into cybersecurity, and what are some challenges agencies face in analyzing data for threat hunting and incident response? I mean, you may have 30 different tools available, but out of them, maybe 5 are really relevant to what you need. How do you make those choices? Because it's not only just, there's not just one tool that you just take and that's a silver bullet. So, I mean, that's a big challenge, yeah.
I wish there was a silver bullet like
Don't we all?
Yes, if we all, everybody wishes. Hasn't happened. Only gotten bigger.
Exactly. So I guess the point is because there's always data leaks. There's always a new exploit kits. For example, the ransomware that's going rampant. There are 2 ways of looking at it, right? One, if your defense mechanism is already weak, right? It's very easy for the attackers to attack you. The other side is, how does somebody recognize that their own defense system is weak without you actually knowing? First things first, right? If you want to go on the offensive, you also need to know your weaknesses, right? If you say you want to go proactive, you need to know where your defenses are first before you can start attacking. Otherwise, one hit on the knee and then you fall. right? And you're particularly right about the different tools. Like we want something that's easy for you to search and understand and say that yes, something is going on at the moment. You do not want like, hey, I'm going to need to do like a swivel from one monitor to another, and then you realize all of them are like in 5-10 different systems. And when you want to correlate like everything into like a single report and say, I need my CIO or my CEO to action on this, you need to spend more time than the attackers trying to get in. I think the importance, again, like the importance is like you want to emulate that and also like trust the other people that you're defending. And I see Yokohama-san has an interesting input as well. Go ahead.
May I make a comment? I think my view is that it goes back to your original question, why should we need cybersecurity strategy?
Exactly.
And I said that it's a combination of business and technologies. And also building on what Wong Wei said about from the shift from the reactive to proactive, my strategy, if I say, is that it's a shift from the protection to detection. I mean, in this situation, it is almost impossible to make 100% protection. We should make it, take it for granted that we are penetrated. And the important thing is minimizing the damage by early detection and quick response. Such kind of shift from protection to detection response is needed. And that's also an angle of strategy. And if you have such a strategy, then we have hundreds of technologies. But what type of technology we would like to match with our strategy? We don't need so much investment to the protection technology anymore. We should put more investment on the choice of the protection, not protection, but the detection and monitoring technologies. And also it has to be cascaded down into the engineer's capabilities. It's okay that I say, yeah, I send off buying this technology, but at the end of the day, it has to be implemented on the field and run daily by the operators. And we have to educate those people. That people strategy has to be also combined with technology choice. That's how I would answer to your question, what technology should we choose? It's a business defines, and we should be mindful about people and operations too.
I totally agree. Prevention is ideal. Detection is a must, and I think like Hong Wei said, they collect the data back since 2001. I would love to get my hands on understanding that data as well. Which is great. Yeah.
So Shinichi-san made a very important point, and this is a point that I've heard a lot of times, that being breached itself is not the end of the world. So what is more important is being able to minimize the damage that a breach has caused. And I think that is a point where big data, automation, and analytics can help to immediately isolate the damage that can be caused. So, Anthony, what is your view on this idea that preventing a breach is not as important as minimizing the damage caused by a breach is?
Well, no, it is not as important. And it's not about just, everyone is focused on preventing today, but the trouble is that when a breach occurs, nobody knows what to do. Again, and that's why I alluded to what Nicholas talked about, the importance of incident response, which is why there's this whole concept today called cyber resilience. Resilience means you assume you're already hacked. You assume that there's a malware or there's a hacker already in your premises. How do you isolate? How do you contain? How do you do network segmentation? How do you continue? That is where availability comes in, business continuity, disaster recovery, incident response, and all that. So that is very important, which is in a way what Yokohama-san was alluding to earlier also, the importance of how do you do business continuity? You have a breach, then it becomes the end of the world. It may not be a major breach, it may not be a major disaster, but people behave like as if you start shutting down systems and start pointing fingers and calling committee meetings and all that. How do you ensure the continuity of the business? Number one. Number two is that coming back to data, so there's a lot of data today, and okay, we will do that a bit more later, but the general idea there, what is the purpose of data is you correlate, you have many signals, many logs today. How do you know which is what? We have these jokes about all the firewall logs. After a while, people stop looking. That's why you have SIM, and the SIM start to have creative or management reports and try to narrow down the noise and give you the real signals to make executive decisions. And even that, we need to improve on, which is where this big data analytics of cybersecurity management comes in. Now, we need to take earlier on about this proactive instead of, it is still a very new science, and people talk about proactive or offensive security. That's still for even honeypots or trying to, so it's still actually a few steps away. Many organizations are not into that yet about being more proactive and predictive. We talk about predictive defense for a few years, but it hasn't really taken off because, like you're saying, we need to get our house in order first before we need to know what to predict or how to be proactive.
No, that's exactly the point. But here, Nicholas, just one comment thrown towards you to get your reaction. When you talk about threat hunting, the threat hunting doesn't necessarily only have to be external. Internal threat hunting is also required, meaning that if there is APT or some malicious threat sitting quietly in the corner in the network, the system should be able to quickly find it and isolate it. That is also an important component of cybersecurity, data-driven cybersecurity. Wouldn't you agree on that?
Of course, like what Anthony was saying as well is like, again, like if somebody like APT is sitting like quietly like in your machine, how did it get there to begin with? I like the particular fact that Anthony mentioned that assume that you're already breached, right? And so now today, like what you're doing is like treat your data with extreme prejudice and say that I assume that I'm already hacked. Where can they come in from? What are the indicators I need to be looking for? And that's the crux of like threat hunting. It's something that today nobody's detecting. It could be coming in from like a poor piece of software, like in the industry, like I was seeing the latest one, like Kaseya, like 5 years ago they were alerted, but still like people are still like using like the software, right? And you want to start profiling and say that when this machine was mostly like dormant, but suddenly it's starting to emit like small bits of data never seen before. How do you actually catch that if you're not looking for it? You can also use like a machine learning or like this added capabilities to tell you that typically this profile or like this machine do not emit this kind of data, do not talk to anybody as well, and suddenly like it lights up. I think this is where Yokohama Sans is like a graph capability is like what it's saying. It's like if I've never seen before, suddenly it's making like 200 connections out like somewhere or keep talking to like a CNC. That's where it lights up very easily. It doesn't have to be the recent data. It could also be like in the past as well.
Yeah, I just want to say that, the shifting to the so-called zero trust architecture.
Exactly. I was coming to that. Yeah, very good.
For, data, because zero trust architecture, by the way, I don't like this language. It's more of a continuous assessment architecture. It's not zero trust. We have to make a trust, but trust based on actual data and continuous monitoring assessment. That's what it means. And that's much more data-driven security measures. Yeah. Yeah,
but, zero trust, good, Shinichi-san, that you brought this up. This is a question I was going to ask the panel, is that by the very nature, zero trust has to be fully automated. I mean, you cannot have an operator or operators sitting behind computers and deciding on zero trust. There has to be machine learning, artificial intelligence that can, work at the speed in which, packets of data move around. So here again, we come back to the point of this whole panel discussion and this event, that automated threat hunting using big data. So, from your perspective as, the CISO of a large global company, which gives connectivity to large mega events where millions of, connections join in. So how do you do this zero trust without being intrusive or obtrusive? In the sense that how do you make it seamless without and secure without anyone understanding that all the architecture that is going behind scenes.
So in reality, I mean, zero trust is a sort of spectrum from a pure perimeter to a really the zero trust. And I think the solution or actual reality exists somewhere in between. And even within NTT, we have multiple sort of, archetype of zero trust, depending on the business strategy and also depending on the assets that we want to protect. And in reality, it's a hybrid approach, and people operation is also included. But we do use the SIEM engines, etc., etc. So it's not fully automated. So thank God that protects us completely. That never comes.
Yeah, like Nicholas said, no silver bullet is available. Nicholas, your views on zero trust?
I think if you are talking about the zero trust models and whatnot, it has to be a conscious effort again, right? Like to build in as part of the architecture. And I think I'll borrow an answer from Anthony's playbook as well. It hasn't changed. What you know, what you are, and what you have, right? And at some point, all your systems, I will need to trust someone who deploys it. Now, the real challenge here is do you trust that someone? If you say zero trust, you still need somebody to implement it. You still need somebody to press that button to deploy the whole architecture, right? So it's more of a concept to say that trust, look at your data or look at your infrastructure in a paranoid manner, but also understand where potentially certain configs that you need to put in more care in understanding what they do versus them blindly trusting and say that, yep, you hold all the keys to your kingdom, you can spin up the infrastructure, take all the data, move all the data.
Yeah, okay. I want a quick response from Anthony and Hongwei also. Anthony, you want to give your views on zero trust?
Well, Jay, no, I think it's already we already like Nicholas went to zero trust and Yokohama-san also even before we started the question. So basically, again, zero trust it's a relatively new concept in terms of the description, but a lot of us have been practicing it for some time back. A lot of the cybersecurity practices, for example, network segmentation, like two-factor authentication, things like that are basically based on zero trust. But now zero trust has moved one step further to be more aware. For example, again, Nicholas and Yokohama-san alluded a bit about suspicious activity monitoring. What is this thing doing there? They're speaking of connections. So, the awareness of and things like penetration tests. Why do we do this? We need to, again, it's all about awareness. So zero trust comes about as a consequence of our being more aware of what's happening in the network and the services and the operations. So I think that's, I don't want to go too deep in it, but basically to simplify the whole thought, zero trust is a concept that, helps us to, improve on what we do about the awareness and to be more vigilant about like Yokohama-san said, we cannot zero trust. We must trust something, but how do we know we can trust this thing and be sure? Because again, it comes back to the availability mantra of cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is not just stopping this and stopping that, but while stopping this and stopping that is to make available the services to those who are legitimately going to use it.
Yeah, exactly. That is a very important point because you have to have seamless connectivity in today's world. And at the same time, you're having zero trust. And, oh God, I wish someone had engaged some, naming specialists to get a better name than zero trust. But Hongwei, coming back to the Taiwan experience, how do you handle zero trust, especially since you have a lot of government services that are available online and many of the users may not be technology savvy. So how do you make the journey seamless for them while being able to protect using zero trust concepts?
Yeah. Currently, we are surveying the zero trust architecture right now. We try to define the zero trust architecture and framework inside of the government. We reference to the NIST framework, but we are thinking like everybody just mentioned, you must trust something instead of zero trust. So we are thinking we want to make a balance between the convenience and the security, because we are thinking if it is inconvenient to the users, every mechanism will be fail. So we must let a zero trust mechanism become embedded inside of our process, inside of government's working flow, in this case, it can really implement and it will become the practical. Right now, we are surveying the, the technology solution, and also we are defining the governance model of this zero trust. That's what I'm thinking. And also, I want to add one thing to Antonio's opinion about resilience. I totally agree, because from right now, we are talking about the resilience of the critical infrastructure. And I believe that zero trust and resilience will become the kernel of the future cybersecurity. That's what my point of view. Thank you.
Okay, just a quick add-on question I want to ask you, and then I'll go to the other panelists with the similar questions. You know, in your time with your Taiwan Cybersecurity Department, what kind of new cybersecurity challenges have you seen over the past year and a half, especially during COVID times? Is there anything new in the threat landscape that you have noticed, or is it the same but with more frequency?
Yeah, the challenge is, from my point of view, is a new technology. For example, like the IoT, like the AI. Everybody are talking about the AI, to use the AI to defend, but on the other hand, you can use the AI to...
Exactly, yeah, my point, yeah.
Yeah. So how do you make a choice of this? And that is one thing. And the second challenge is on the critical infrastructure. So you can see for the United States, the Colonial Pipeline, and also in Taiwan, the CPC has faced the same attack. So that is the second challenge. And the third one, still the talent. So that is the challenge we face. And also that is the focus point we are facing right now. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. I want to ask the same question to Shinichi-san. What are the major challenges you've seen, cybersecurity challenges you've seen over the past year and a half? Is there anything new that you've seen that wasn't there previously?
Yeah, I mean, just the fact-based, a couple of things. The first one is the proliferation of ransomware.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is use of supply chain, such as SolarWinds. And the third is attack on the critical infrastructure, such as the pipeline case.
Yeah.
Combination of these three has significant implications. Our past paradigm is that attacks to the critical infrastructure is primarily probably done by the kind of governments of the rival nations, state-backed, etc., etc. However, with the ransomware, we now know that the economically motivated criminals can attack critical infrastructure with ransomware, which could generate a significant incapability of the national infrastructures. And that's a significant change of the game. Not only the governments, but also even anybody with the use of ransomware and security tools or cyber attack tools can cause us nationwide significant cyber damage. And that's already proven with the reality. That's the biggest event which took place in the first half of this 2021, unfortunately. And I would say that governments, as well as the critical infrastructure service providers, should really think seriously. This coming new rule of the game will prevail, not only in the US, in Japan, in Asian countries. That will come for sure. What should we do? We should have a new strategy, new approach, much more elevated strategy. That's my answer to your question.
Yeah. Thank you, Shinichi-san. Very somber predictions, and I think you are completely right. I'll quickly get Nicholas and Anthony to give their views on the points you've raised. And Nicholas, you want to go in first?
I think the keen observation there is there's always nation state back threat actors. There's also the financially motivated ones. I think in NTT's report as well, they've also highlighted the coin miners, the crypto miners as well. Those are not small feats, right? The unregulated markets, they are also attacking that. And the ones that you really want to hurt the nations the most, for example, the critical infrastructure, I think that's the delicate need of like every nation, right? And I heed like Yokohama-san's call. Like I think a lot of nations should start preparing and look like how old is our infrastructure? What is the inventory of like our software? How vulnerable like it may potentially be if those are attacked, and start formulating a proper way of response, because the actors are not going to stop just because like you are a nation or whatnot. Even like somebody who may be like a very trivial, or like even like a script kiddie, like they find a 0-day exploit or whatnot, they could just launch it and inadvertently take it down as well. So again, like it's very, very important to take inventory of like what has happened in the past from the reports that we've seen, and take it as an indication that if we are not prepared to defend it, be prepared to be in the news.
Yeah, that's an important point. Anthony, you want to share your views on this?
Okay, yes. With respect to critical infrastructure and ransomware and all that, and the problem is that critical infrastructure itself was not originally designed, to deal with cybersecurity, because they're not using all the latest IP and all that, and for 50 years, 100 years, we never had a problem until we started connecting them to the internet, and that's where all the trouble started. And they use a lot of old legacy operating systems that are not patched and are not well defended against the attacks today. Like for example, about 2017, 4 years ago, the WannaCry outbreak in Europe started attacking shipping services and hospitals and other critical infrastructure. Apparently, it wasn't originally meant to be that way. It was meant to attack Windows XP old machines in the office. But a lot of critical infrastructure equipment were using Windows XP, correct, and they got caught anyway. And you can't go and patch all this, like some, you go to the airport, some of those are passport machines, some of them are using Windows XP or Windows. You can't patch that. Okay, yeah, NT. Oh my goodness. So there's no patch for that, and that is, so there must be other ways. If you want to connect critical infrastructure to the internet, there must be other ways to defend them, such that the virus or the attacker doesn't even reach that level of the equipment. So that is part of the issue, you see. And there's a whole new thinking. It's not about even if they appear in the newspapers for the wrong reason tomorrow, there was nothing they could do, but they didn't even know it was happening. So there's a big rethink. That's why they say we're not prepared. So Nicholas was correct about we're not prepared. So how do we be prepared? Again, comes back to your first question. How do we strategize? How do we structure? How do we prioritize? What are our KPIs? Okay.
Yeah, that's true. So essentially, maybe one solution would be security in the network, not on the machine. But then that is for another discussion.
Yes, correct. Well, I see Hong Wei nodding. Maybe he has something to say.
Yeah. You want to say anything, Hong Wei? Quick. We are almost running out of time.
No, thank you.
Yeah. So this is to the general audience. We're almost out of time. Anyone has any quick questions that our panelists can answer? If not, we have to start wrapping up now. I don't see any questions but so let me give each panelist 30 seconds to give a brief wrap up of what they think are the key takeaways from this discussion. Hong Wei, you want to go first?
Okay, thank you. I think the new technology become a new challenge. So from government point of view, cybersecurity were part of the government, and you were part of the key element of the e-government services. So it's very important, and we need a whole of a government strategy for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Shinichi-san, a quick wrap up.
Sure. I mean, as I said, the rule of the game is changing, and we need much more stronger international and multi-sector, public, private, everybody participative collaboration.
Yeah, and Anthony, your wrap up for this very interesting discussion.
Okay, it comes back to, like I said, we need to have a strategy, like you said. First, what I said a minute ago, have a framework and prioritize. At the same time, coming to proactive, you need to embrace, because we're embracing new technologies in our digital transformation in all our application services. We need to embrace new cybersecurity thinking, and we cannot just keep using the old cybersecurity thinking to try and, you can't use infrastructure security to secure cloud services. So we need to research and learn how do we secure cloud services? How do we be more proactive? For example, external threat intelligence. Instead of, how do we find out what data we have leaked out there, who is faking our website and who is sending wrong messages to our customers without us knowing? How do we find this out? What information do we have on the dark web that we already don't know about that other people are taking advantage of to attack us back? We need again to have an increased aware, and that builds into our earlier on zero trust concept. So I think this whole conversation this morning with all the distinguished gentlemen, it's quite comprehensive in this manner.
Thank you. Don't go away. I have a question for you from the audience, but before that, I want to get Nicholas in first and to give his wrap up.
I think the important thing, like I said, right, so security again, it's the data problem that we're trying to solve, right? We are trying. Prevention is ideal, right? Everybody wants to prevent, but if you cannot prevent, detection is a must. I can't say that strongly enough. And again, how do you detect if you don't have enough data to support that hypothesis, right? So again, when you're designing your security posture, your security strategy and whatnot, always remember why are you there? Why is the application going online? How important that is. From those business qualitative impact, you would know that what you need to protect and who are the people accessing it. So again, I'll leave the discussion with, again, prevention is ideal, detection is a must.
Yeah, prevention is ideal, detection is a must. That's more truer words have never been said in cybersecurity. Thanks on that. Before we finish this off, Anthony, there's a question from the audience. They say that you have made good points about cyber resilience in compared to only trying to prevent breach. How can you get more organizations to focus on this? You want to take a quick shot at this?
Yes, I appreciate the question. And basically, how are we going to do this is basically we need more education. We need more awareness. We need to let people know that you don't just try and prevent. The traditional thinking is, and we've got a lot to do. Cybersecurity people are usually overworked and underpaid, and so they have too much on their minds. But you don't just make the wall thicker or taller. Like I said, you need to have all those things we talked about. At the same time, we need public education awareness. Let organizations know that it is about resilience. It is about assuming that you are already breached. What do you do? It is about like I said earlier, your incident response, your disaster recovery, your business continuity. There are many organizations that have a wonderful business continuity program, and that's why it's mandatory to test it every year. But then again, every time you test it, some of the things are broken, and then how do you fix it? Do you fix it? Things like that. You see. You don't have it just because it's mandatory or because you're following a standard. You've got to really live it and love it. I mean, again, it comes back to a lot of education and awareness. We need to do this because this is the state of the world today. Like in the beginning of our conference, Yokohama-san talked about this is the state of the world today. We need to change some of the way we do things.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Anthony. And we've already overshot our time, so we'll have to stop it here. But one final point I want to make to the audience: if you really have any follow-up questions for our distinguished panelists, please get in touch with the GovInsider folks. I think they can connect you to the experts if you want more information. And with this, let me thank all the panelists for a wonderful discussion. And I felt it was a privilege for me to be a part of this discussion. And as far as the audience is concerned, I hope you got some good takeaways from this discussion. And I hope to see both the panelists as well as the audience members again very soon. Thank you, and bye-bye, everybody.